eno ye Extreme Media UJ. Subscribe for all updates.
Abalungi abatuuliriza era abatulaba olunaku olwaleero tuchaddeko ewa Sheikh Asiraf Dembe.
Sebo sanyusa okubalaba amannya agange yezeseeka Asiraf Dembe akola ku bizibu by'enjawulo. Omuntu singa aba alina ebirwadde tumusomereddwa, tumuwa amazzi ga lukuya nga bw'obadde ogalaba, tugenda abantu ku kyoto ne twokya emizimu emibi egibabaamu n'okulomba edduwa. Abantu singa abeera ng'ali wano atuuse sobola okumulombera edduwa, ne waba atatuuse nga mpadde amannya ge naye ng'ali wala. Neetaase ennamba yange yeeno eri 07 01 76 37 11
81 March. I went to the bush. Dr. Chisu Besigye, who had been incarcerated in either mid or late 80s at the conference center, by God's grace he managed to get through, had run to Nairobi where he had managed to get a placement as a doctor in Aga Khan Hospital. In May 81, he voluntarily left that placement as a doctor at Aga Khan Hospital and he came to the bush. And we've known each other since that time. 81, there were only two qualified doctors in the bush. Honorable Dr. Chisu Besigye and the late Dr. Bata. Many survived because of Dr. Chisu Besigye and the late Bata. People who had been, they would carry out surgical measures or treatment without theater, without literally anything. You can imagine conditions of people where there is no permanent camp. People are moving all the time. But they did the best they could, with of course a few qualified medical professionals who are like at the level of nursing for the 5 years. The survival of many of the leaders and the soldiers who had become casualties was because of Dr. Chisu Besigye. He was in prison. By God's grace, we took power in 86. Dr. Chisu Besigye became a Minister of Internal Affairs. I remember he used to live in a house near All Saints, where I used to visit him when he was a Minister of Internal Affairs. From there, he became the National Political Commissar, then was the commander of the Mechanized Brigade, Mataka, and then became the Chief of Logistics in the Army. 2000 is when there was now a fallout between. It was the first, incidentally. Much as there had been disagreements simmering below the surface, the open breakout was when Dr. Chisu Besigye wrote the document, which I think was referred to by Honorable Salam Musumba. And we all know what culminated from that, 2001, the competition, which took the establishment. Because for the first time, for someone to come from within the establishment and compete, shook the foundations of the establishment. Immediately after the election of 2001, that's when Dr. Chisu Besigye went to South Africa. And then 2004, that's when Dr. Chisu Besigye returned. That's when we formed FDC. And we all know what happened 2006, the elections of 2006, 2011, 2016. The establishment feared challenges from someone from within. But that also opened up space in the political sphere. And the contention is still ongoing. There is no resolution yet. Now, in talking about Dr. Chisu Besigye, I would like to bring out two values, which many people seem not to pay attention to. Courage and resilience, but also choice. See, human beings, all of us, God gave us one thing uniformly: choice. In life, as you go through life in whatever area of endeavor you are in, whether you're in politics, whether you are in business, wherever you are, you make choices. Every time in our lives, there's nobody who never reaches a crossroads. All of us reach crossroads. Every time any of us reaches a crossroad, there are always two options. Making the choice to do what is right. Also making the choice to know what is right, but do what is wrong. The way we are created, every human being has got soul, spirit, and body. Many people seem not to realize that the struggles we engage in on the outside vis-a-vis other people, vis-a-vis issues of right and wrong, issues of justice and injustices, all these struggles are rooted first and foremost within ourselves. That's where it starts. That question of choice. Unfortunately, I have never understood exactly why. Every time you reach a crossroads and you are faced with that issue of making a choice, right or wrong, it seems that most of the times the right choices take you through very difficult paths. And when you decide to take the path of comfort, most times it is when you have decided to do what is wrong, even when you know what is right, because there is that contention. When you choose to stand for what is right, you will meet resistance. You'll go through difficult situations. Whether to compromise and say, you know what, I cannot stand this, I'd rather live a comfortable life with my family, enjoy myself, live my life on earth, and then exit. When you compromise, something dies in you. The Bible says that what does it benefit a man, I suppose also women, to gain the whole world and lose one's own soul? But when leaders or people choose to take the difficult path and suffer discomfort, it takes courage, also builds resilience. And in politics, it's important to have such men and women who choose to take the difficult path regardless of the discomforts they are going to meet, regardless of the harrowing nature of the challenges they are going to go through. There is no society which can live as a free people unless it has such men and women. It's just simply not possible. We have societies which are alive. You go into a community, there are people who breathe, who eat, who do all kinds of things, but who live in a state of slavery. Therefore, contention at the end of the day is, what does society choose to do? And society stands when it has got men and women who are courageous, who are resilient. Those are the things we need to study and understand and appreciate about Dr. Chisu Besigye. The courage to make decisions even when he knows the consequences of those decisions. 2, to remain resilient and not give up. Dr. Chisu Besigye has got many choices. He could simply say, forget about the people and the country and whatever. Let me just live a comfortable life. If he made that choice, to definitely be in Kasangati. Clearly. Now, we need to understand that since creation, all systems that want to oppress people do one thing. They will employ all instruments at their disposal to cause people to give up hope, to participate in their own oppression. That's how dictatorships survive. That's why all dictatorships employ all manner of instruments at their disposal to undermine the will of the people and impose their own will on those people. Communities, societies can never break down when there are men and women who remain resilient, who remain strong, because they become pillars of hope for the people who are being oppressed. Why do you think all dictatorships, in all instruments they use, in terms of information, in terms of psychological warfare, in terms of the use of money, in terms of the use of fear, in terms of use of coercion, targeting leaders to ensure that all leaders become compromised? Because they know that once all leaders are compromised, community will give up. Majority of the people, peasants, never lead themselves. They have to be led by leaders, most times who come from the elite class, in whatever struggles you find yourselves in. Regimes across the whole world will spend lots of time and effort. Many times they even employ psychologists to study human behavior, to know what patterns do you push to compromise. They profile every leader. They understand the weaknesses. They understand the strength. Dictatorships never build leaders where they are weak to make them stronger, because they are dictatorships. Societies which prosper, there has to be management, those who are in leadership, who also study people and know where their weaknesses and build strength where they are weak and reinforce where they are strong. Dictatorships do the opposite. They will profile everybody and know, how do we bring this one down? How do we bring that one down? How do we bring that one down? So that eventually the population gives up hope, becomes compromised, and participates in their own subjugation. Societies which have men and women who remain standing in spite of whatever is thrown at them, those societies eventually overcome the challenges. We salute Dr. Chisu Besigye. 1, for making courageous decisions. 2, for remaining resilient. Now, as our generation starts buying out of politics, the younger generation, you need to know these things. You need to build men and women who will not bow, regardless of whatever they meet. That is at the core of the struggle we're engaged in, nothing else. In the army, you can have a very well-organized and strong army, well-equipped with officers and men well-trained with modern equipment, and you can defeat your adversary even when you are not necessarily doing what is right, you will impose your will on your adversary. But that only is as far as physical occupation. Because there are still countries which have taken over other countries and they occupy them. But when you are not able to impose your will on the spirit of a people, meaning that you cannot break their spirit, they will throw you out. There are clear examples. Americans were whipped in Vietnam. Afghanistan, you may agree or disagree with the ideology, that's not the issue here. The issue is the spirit of a people. Afghanistan is unique in the sense that it has whipped 2 nuclear powers in its time. Soviet Union went there. The Afghans could not be broken. They fought, they took their country. Then the Americans and Europe and the coalition of the willing were there 20 years. The Afghans could not be broken. That's the power of a spirit of a people. Even when you are physically occupied, as long as you are not broken in spirit, nobody can subjugate you. They can occupy you, but they cannot make you participate in your own oppression. The struggle, therefore, at the core of the struggle that we are in is at the level of the mind. That's where you start from. If people can defeat at the level of the mind, you are done. You are basically done. So as already indicated, clearly, Dr. Chisu is courageous. The number of choices he has made in his life. He could have decided to take the comfortable path. Even when he was in Nairobi, he could have remained there as a doctor. Why on earth would he have to come back? He was already out there. He took the choice of coming to fight. Being incarcerated many times, but remains resilient, believing in what he believes in and what he struggles for, justice and fairness in our society. So we thank you all colleagues who have come to celebrate 70 years of his life on earth. If he hadn't remained resilient, I doubt whether there would be many people here anyway. That's what many people forget. I can tell you every time someone is broken, they become forgotten. We have seen many examples. I'm not going to go through that. You break, you lose trust of the people for whom you've been struggling with. Even the one who breaks you ceases to respect you. That's another thing many people don't understand. Those who choose the path of comfort. So as I close, the situation we are operating within is very, very precarious. A lot of uncertainty. Of course, if you meet the people in the regime, for them they think everything is done, everything is under wraps. All dictatorship think like that. Until the day when things turn round and nobody can control anything anymore. That happens all the time. I've always wondered why people who run dictatorships never learn from what has happened to others. Instead of relaxing the situation, the regime keeps pushing and pushing and pushing. Those who are in the regime, you need to start relaxing the situation and creating conditions on how change which inevitably happen, how we can retain a country that is intact. I like to recommend those who are in power to read, not to read, to watch. They should seek for, and also those who are not in power necessarily. The change of Mubarak in Egypt, because many people are only attracted by the street demonstrations, but there's a history. There are 2 Al Jazeera documentaries, 30 minutes each, and you see the internal dynamics that were within the Egyptian government before a situation which erupted far from Egypt. In Tunisia, a guy called Bouazizi who was selling fruit, a policewoman took the fruit, the man had reached breaking point, he got petrol, poured on himself, burnt himself in Tunisia. And then an insurrection broke out in Egypt. Imagine, completely, they always trigger points. I'm not saying that it will be triggered, but every situation has got its own dynamics. I don't know. Nobody knows. I can tell you nobody knows. Only God knows what's going to happen. We don't know. Those who are in the regime think they know. You don't. You who are in the regime who think you know, you don't. As time will clearly show to us that actually you didn't know. You will see how, for example, Gamar was the son of the late Mubarak. And I think Mubarak was grooming him to become the leader of Egypt. And then at some point, even Gamar is the one who had chosen the cabinet. But down the road, Mubarak, I think, thought it was not yet time for him to bow, so he remained around, and it caused internal misunderstandings even within the ruling party itself. And then the insurrection came, their own history. I'd also like to encourage those who are in power and those who are not in power necessarily to look for a book called 2 Weeks in November. I think 2 weeks in November. It's by an American journalist about Zimbabwe. Because many people know what happened at the end, but they don't know the history of the evolution, internal dynamics that caused the fall of Mugabe. And you can trace everywhere there have been falling of dictatorships. Every time a leader stays in power for a long time and there are no stable institutions and open, transparent systems of governance, power gets concentrated in the hands of one strong man. There have always been men. Maybe when there was a woman, maybe was it in Burma or someplace, I don't remember. There have always been men. A strong man. Well, Bangladesh, I think. So, one strong man remains. Systems weaken, institutions become compromised, the abnormal becomes normalized, the population loses hope, and then towards the end, normally what happens, almost in every such situation, when the leader has been there too long, internal dynamics develop of people positioning themselves for takeover from the internal circles. Always factions start forming. Countries which are lucky, the institutions hold together so that when change happens, the countries remain intact. Countries which are unlucky because of the internal dynamics at times which spill into the national state security apparatus, split, and one thing, just a trigger, and everything just falls apart. Countries which are unlucky, that happens. We came here to celebrate Dr. Chisu Besigye's 70th birthday through prayer, which means that we believe in God. True or not true? Yeah. So the very God we believed in praying this moment, the same God we need keep praying to, so that when the inevitable change happens, which will happen, the country remains intact. Because it's only God, in my own estimation, who's just holding us by the thread. There are those who think they are holding us, they are not. They don't understand one thing at all. God bless you all. resilience. The young people, you are the majority. You know how to network. Sit amongst yourselves. Evolve leaders who are courageous, who are strong, who will not break down because of the pressures which are upon all of you. We know that. The situation is quite tough. But for us to have a society, a community of people, now we are 47 million people. Down the road, about 2 decades down the road, we're going to become 100 million people. To have 100 million people who will live a life of dignity, men and women who will be proud, it's going to be dependent on how many young people, courageous, resilient, and focused on values and principles, to galvanize yourselves, network, and become the bulwark against the challenges of our times. May God bless you all.
Thank you so much, General.